up and doing it with all that razor wire that you're showing right now.
Mm-hmm. And you've committed to putting up more razor wire, where the U.S. Supreme Court just a few days ago said that the feds are allowed to cut through the wire that you've been watching yourself for a couple years now. And just to go back to your first answer that you mentioned there, this was your statement yesterday.
That's Texas Governor Greg Abbott on Fox News drawing a line in the sand on immigration. And boy, oh boy, do I love this story. Welcome to Nurk News. I'm Nurkish. Today we're going to be taking a few minutes to break down this story, the fallout of Abbott's decision, and the response from other state governors and Joe Biden. But first, let's give a quick recap. Texas installed razor wire along the U.S.-Mexico border to deter illegals, which let's say they didn't like too much.
¿Dónde vienes?
That was a case about a mile upstream from Shelby Park where we met a pair of migrants named Edwin and Wilmer from Guatemala who say they were looking for another area to cross where they wouldn't be immediately arrested. Ahora, ¿cuál es el plan? What's your plan right now? To go look for Border Patrol?
Que ellos nos tomen, intentar entregarnos, no sé, a migración nos dijeron.
So what they just said is that they're walking along the border here. They're looking for Border Patrol agents so that they can surrender to them. They're going to keep going upstream here. Obviously, they can't cross here because of the barbed wire.
Those responsible for the enforcement here say it's working, with numbers of crossings dramatically dropping. But for migrant advocates and Eagle Pass residents like America Garcia, this scale of operation is just too heavy-handed.
I would not have expected that this was possible in a democratic country.
Cool. Thanks for the input, America Garcia. It's been duly noted. So, naturally, the Biden administration got involved, and it went all the way to the Supreme Court, who ruled that Border Patrol agents can cut the wire, but the case is still being litigated. Greg Abbott has responded by saying, go pound sand.
The federal government has broken the compact between the United States and the states. The executive branch of the United States has a constitutional duty to enforce federal laws protecting states, including immigration laws on the books right now. So if you lost this week at the U.S. Supreme Court, does this now go back there? And how would you expect to win a second time around?
Sure. One quick point of clarification. Something, Bill, you just said that everybody's saying, and that is that the Supreme Court, you said the Supreme Court said what Texas cannot do. If you look at what the Supreme Court actually issued, they didn't write any type of opinion. All they did was to vacate a Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals order and to send it back to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. It's two sentences. There was no opinion about anything about razor wire or what Texas is doing or anything like that. But that point aside, regardless of what federal statute may exist, the supremacy clause means that the Constitution itself is the supreme law of the land. The Constitution itself provides Texas with a right of self-defense in this case because the United States has abandoned its responsibility to defend Texas. And I do believe that when it gets to the Supreme Court, we can win. I don't know how and why the justices voted the way they did, but there seemed to be 4 justices who indicated at least an appetite to hear the case as is.
Yeah, gee, I wonder why they made that decision. That's so weird. I don't see any connection between any of these justices. Now, since Abbott's decision, 25 governors have signed letters supporting him. And as for the left, well, they're calling on the feds to seize control of the Texas National Guard. Meanwhile, Biden announced yesterday that Texas has until today to allow border agents back in to remove the wire.
Well, as it stands right now, you might be able to make out behind me, Texas's razor wire is still here inside of Shelby Park. It remains untouched. However, the Biden administration has now warned Texas it has until tomorrow to allow Biden's border agents back into Shelby Park and the ability to remove Texas's razor wire as it sees fit. A federal attorney writes to Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton that the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the Biden administration, ending a temporary restraining order that prohibited Biden's border agents from touching Texas razor wire in and around Shelby Park. The Biden administration goes into detail about the access it wants. It wants access to Shelby Park, also the nearby boat launch and the international bridge.
I can't emphasize enough how big of a deal this is. Immigration is a huge issue. Over half of the country thinks the government is doing too little. Liberal areas are kicking kids out of schools to house illegals. It's hurting Biden in the polls. It's gotten so bad that he's even asked Mexico for help, which I don't know. I thought that's what a military was for. Now, if Abbott wants it, he can become one of the most consequential American leaders since Lincoln. I mean, this is a tipping point here. Biden is screwed. It's 100% lose-lose for him. He either does nothing and shows how ineffective he is as a leader, or he takes it by force, which would devastate him politically. But let me know what you think. Are you as interested in this story as I am? Do you think Biden is going to cave? Will Abbott call his bluff? Let me know in the comments. Until then, this has been Nerk News. Boy!